Yes, yes, indeed. Everybody on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Good to see you all again. It's Dr. Ramon Goins with the Done Dissertation. And in today's office hours, we're going to talk with author Nailah Harvery about grammar, why we need to use it, why I struggle with it, and then some insights on how we can do things differently with our grammar. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Nailah on so we can have this conversation.
Hello, family.
So thanks, Nailah, for taking the time to chat with us. I'm always interested first. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Nailah Harvery from Los Angeles, California. I'm a native here, Compton bred. I am a book coach and book editor. My goal is really to help writers bring their ideas to life. Fun fact, I am a grammar enthusiast. It came from my years of being an English teacher, teaching overseas in South Korea, and bringing that skill set back to the States. I realized that, okay, the English language is sort of like linguistic capital. So from that experience overseas, I've been on this train to really help all writers look better in writing. Therefore, I focus on grammar and things of that nature. So that's my spiel.
And so, like, grammar is such a unique topic, right?
Right.
Not everyone wants to focus on grammar. So did it start before being a teacher? Like, where did it start for you?
That's a good question. I don't know if the grammar portion started before being a teacher, but definitely the writing portion. I have been writing since I was a little girl. I would write letters to my parents, like just I was that kid. I would write letters about how I felt, letters about how my parents were unfair, just letters. My thing was always writing. But it wasn't until, I want to say 2012, that I realized, okay, when you teach what you're passionate about, you may have to learn the fundamentals. And I'm passionate about the English language and writing, right? But the fundamentals of that is grammar. So I really started to research that more and more from like 2013 on. So that's kind of where my love for grammar started.
You know, from a grammar side, what about grammar in particular? Is there a certain type of piece of grammar or punctuation mark that we use that you just love? Is there something that you fall in love with out of all the things that we can use with our grammar?
That is a great question. I don't know if there's one particular punctuation mark, but there are definite. My thing is, why not use or just know about all 14 of the punctuation marks? So I think just knowing, and when I say 14, those are the most commonly used in standard American English. Just knowing punctuation will not only help strengthen your writing skills, but here's the key, guys. It will help you with your writing confidence. A lot of writers are afraid to write, and those who may even want to write, you're afraid to write because you feel like, okay, I don't know if people will understand my words or will understand my work. The key for people to understand your words or your work is to really make sure that you have a good grasp on punctuation. There's this quote that I use that I've written or I have used in my book. It's by Russell Baker, and it says, "In writing, punctuation plays the role of body language. It helps readers hear the way you want to be heard." And that's sort of the way that I've been living my teacher life by teaching grammar. It's like, I want to help people know and help writers know that punctuation, this simple idea, is the one thing that can help readers hear you the way that you're supposed to be heard. And if nothing, 2020 has taught us that in-person meetings are not always going to happen, but people will see your words before they even meet with you. So you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward, grammatically speaking, because some people judge you by that. I'm not saying I do, but some people do.
Now there is, I saw this as, you know, I was thinking about interviewing you, just saw like this hashtag on like Twitter, Instagram, the grammar police. Are you part of the grammar police crew, or how do you feel about that when you see work come across your screen?
I don't know if I'm a part of the grammar police crew per se. I'm somewhere in the background. I'm not in the upfront crew, but I am definitely in the area. I'm in the area.
Okay, I got you. I know that makes sense. And, you know, with this, you have a new book called Look Better in Writing, a quick and easy guide to punctuation. Like, tell us about the book and like, who is the book for?
Well, I wrote the book. The market sort of shifts a little bit. I wrote the book when I was in grad school and I was writing my papers, and I realized that I was spending more time researching like how to properly place my words and the punctuation, etc., than I was actually researching the topic for the paper. So I said, what if I can help other writers not go through what I'm going through right now? What if I can have a cheat code, a book, a guide to help writers kind of college writers specifically, to help grad students and college writers like myself at the time speed through their papers. We don't have time to be having 50 million tabs open on our computer when we're trying to write a term paper. We just don't. We want to get in and get out. Sometimes we're in the library, the school library, or we just want to, enjoy our family and friends. We don't want to spend all day behind the screen. So I said, if I can help other writers and other grad students and other college students in general, not be so overwhelmed with the writing process by way of, a self-editing sort of technique, then let me do that. And I literally wrote this book, the first version of it. I have it right here. I wrote the first iteration of it, or the first version of it, while at school. I was that frustrated. Yes, with that, the way that I was writing and just the time that it was taking to write, that I wrote it at school and I published it immediately because I was like, people need this in their hands. So that's a little bit about this book. It highlights all 14, as I spoke about, of the most commonly used punctuation marks. We have everywhere from periods to semicolons to the punctuation marks that we don't even use that much, like brackets. Who use brackets in their everyday life? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna get into. There's one in particular that I'm like, I still don't even like to use it. I moved past it, so I'm definitely gonna ask you about that. And we have a question actually on LinkedIn. And so one of the questions was like, how do we speed our writing? Because I know you mentioned speed. So how do you see grammar and punctuation in particular, like helping us speed up our writing?
Right. Outside of just knowing the punctuation, let's just say today, you're starting today, you want to speed your writing today. I would say my very first tip is to write without editing. Treat each process the same. My thing is to respect the processes. Okay, so you're just going to write without editing at the same time, because when you edit and you stop and you start and you think that really interrupts the creative process. So a way to speed up your writing process is to just let it flow. Just write, get your thoughts out, and then go back and start to fine tune your words and edit your words. I like to call it massage your words, make sure it's good for the topic at hand. And then go back a third time and sort of like work on the punctuation. And remember when we were in grade school and your teacher would say, okay, guys, it's time for peer review. It's time for peer tutoring or peer editing or whatever, however the teacher phrased it.
Right.
That is still a thing. If you can send out your paper to someone else so you can get more eyes on it, that's a way to speed it up.
No, that's perfect. That's a perfect, because I tell my doctoral students all the time that work with me in my coaching program, as well as my students at the university, like your job is to get the quickest, sloppiest rough draft on paper, because we can edit from there. But if your thoughts are in your head and not on paper, I can't do anything to help you from that point. And I'm glad you said that. Get everything down and then work on the punctuation, in the grammar. Yeah, because I find in my own writing, I had to just get over the editing while I wrote. It was tough though. I don't know. Like, did you have a process or do you have a process to help writers think through that? Because I know a lot of people struggle with this idea, like I need to be, working and editing while I'm writing. Right.
I think the best tip I have for that is to open your Word document, be it Google Doc or Word, Microsoft Word, whatever it is, and to just start writing. Of course, I like a little bit of structure. So let's say it is a graduate paper or a college paper of any kind, then put your topic at the top, write down anything that you think of when it comes to that topic, and then segment it. If it's a topic that can be broken down, break it down. If it's a book, then definitely break it down, but get it all out. Organize it as much as possible in the sense that you are organizing your thoughts and ideas. You're not editing, you're just organizing your thoughts and ideas. For example, if you're writing a book about colors or a paper about colors, have a section for purple, have a section for red, have a section for black, you know what I mean? And then you write accordingly. And then you go back and make sure everything, sort of flows. But the first step is to get it out of your head in as organized as you can. Get it out of your head. Yeah.
No, that's great. And it's actually, we have another question around, folks are using software like Grammarly. Like, should people be using those types of software, or do you just recommend like learning it on your own? I have a thought about this, but I'm curious to see what your thought is about this
Oh
as
my
well.
gosh. Yes, I love Grammarly. I love Grammarly. I'm totally in support of Grammarly. I am in support of making things easier on yourself. Like life is difficult enough. So
For
if
sure.
you know, like why make things harder than they have to be? If Grammarly is your jush, then by all means use Grammarly. But there's some things that Grammarly can't do. Like they can't get into the tone and the voice of the author or the writer. So you're going to have to use your discretion for some things, and you're definitely going to have to use a little bit of knowledge and skill set and a little bit of research if you don't know the answers.
Sure.
But if you have editing tools, use them. Absolutely use them.
Yeah, I definitely think I haven't really used it myself in my own writing, but I see my doc students using it, and they seem to get great results, and it gives an initial starting point, and then
Right.
from there they can fine tune it. So I'm glad you said that you recommend the Grammarly piece. And so with grammar, right? What is maybe one of the punctuation marks that people get wrong all the time? Like, what's the one that you see most often wrong, and then how can they think about doing it the right way?
Don't get me in trouble. Okay. I would have to say that almighty comma. The comma is one of the punctuation marks that have the most sort of like sub rules. Like it has so many, it has like 3 major rules, and it has like a sub rule and then the exemption, and it just has a lot to go with the comma. Like you can use it in so many ways. That poor baby is just used and misused. Also, I would say the semicolon doesn't get a lot of love. I would love the semicolon to get more love, and just a little bit of variation in punctuation. I call it the core 4. The core 4 periods, we all use those, right? We all use exclamation points. We all use question marks, and we all use commas.
Right.
But what about the colon? You know, what about quotation marks and all of these other marks that can really add a little bit of flavor to your writing? I think that if we kind of like diversify our punctuation a little bit, we can add a little bit of character to our words, and therefore, you know, make that paper that much better, or make that book that much more exciting. So yeah, the comma, if we can just learn how to properly use the comma, I feel like it would go a long way.
So what's your thought on, because I know some people use what's the Oxford comma, so after the, you know, comma, are you in for the Oxford comma? Like what's your...
I am pro Oxford comma.
I am too. Yeah. I just can't, it's hard when I see it. I'm just like, wait a minute, put that last comma there. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And IG, I'm sorry, I'm looking here and I'm looking there, but for my IG family, yes, that Oxford comma, it is needed if you ask me, because it really does add that extra clarity. So I'm definitely pro Oxford.
And I will ask on a personal note, this is the one punctuation mark when I see it, I just like, all right, I'm gonna figure something else out. But and you mentioned it, is the semicolon. Like, how do we use that right? Every time I see it, I'm just like, why not just put a period and just keep making another sentence? So
yes.
What about the semicolon?
One cheat way to use a semicolon is to use it in place of like a transition. You know, your transition words are like and, because, unfortunately, those words, right?
Sure.
If you're going to have 2 independent clauses or 2 complete sentences and you want to merge them, then you can use a semicolon instead of like a transition. For example, if I were to say, I went to the store and I bought apples.
Sure.
Instead of saying and, I can cross off the and I can say, I went to the store, semicolon, I bought apples. Those 2 sentences are relatable and they're relative to one another.
Sure.
And they also can be used without that transition word if you replace it with a semicolon. So that's the best way that I can explain.
Okay, I like that. And for my folks, you know, doctoral students and faculty members, we're always trying to figure out how to cut words. So, you know, maybe to use a semicolon might cut off the and, you know, might give us back some words in our writing.
And that's the thing too. The role that punctuation plays is also one to really scale back on a lot of overly used words. Like sometimes we just don't need a lot of words. We need to really get to the point. And if you properly use punctuation, it helps you get to the point a little bit quicker and a little bit more clearly. So I think that that's another reason why it's so important, because in a lot of our writings, we can lose people's attention if we're all over the place or if we're wordy. No, get to the point. Use your punctuation to help you get to the point.
That is so key. And for my audience that, like, again, are doctoral students trying to figure out how to get through the dissertation, I always say I call it the REAP approach to writing, right? First, you have to read to understand the literature. Then you have to exercise your writing muscle every day. Then you have to be able to accept and apply feedback that you get from professors and colleagues. But then the P is that you have to, I call it a playground friendly writing approach. So like, how can we make this simple to the point that kids understand? Because I always find if my 8th grader understands what I wrote, then luckily my committee member or someone's going to understand it. So I'm glad you mentioned that a way we can think about writing more in a friendlier approach is to use our punctuation to kind of help us do that.
Right. And I like that. I like what you just said. That's kind of cool. I never thought about it that way. I like that. Say that one more time. It's called, what do you call it?
I call it the REAP approach to writing. So read.
Okay.
Because you have to read first to understand the literature for my audience as doctoral students or faculty, but then you have to exercise your writing muscle every day, right? Because if you want to go in the gym and build muscle, you can't just go once a week. Like, you need to be practicing. So I always say with writing, if you want to improve it, practice, right?
Right.
And then from there, ask for and then accept feedback. Because I think that's the piece you mentioned, like, it's important to get peer review. Right. So it's like, think about how often can we get that feedback and then embrace it and then use it to actually push us to be better writers. But then lastly, that playground friendly writing approach. And I think you're getting at that, using our punctuation as a way to make our writing clearer and to the point.
Oh, I like that. I have to use that. REAP. Okay, that's good.
REAP. Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. So I always think about that because, as you mentioned, I never thought just as punctuation as a way to do that. But now you got me thinking differently about that.
Yes. And now I'm thinking differently about your approach to writing in general. That's really, really good. And I love that writing can do that because it's writing is an art and it is a skill that can be strengthened. So I think that people can be born writers. Like I said in the beginning, I was writing since I was young, but I still had to hone my craft. I still write very regularly. You know what I mean? I still edit. I just finished an editing project 20 minutes ago. So this is me continually being in this field. Therefore, I can speak about it so confidently, but it's something that a skill that can be strengthened if you put in the work. So don't lose hope, people. Your writing confidence can be strengthened. It really can.
Yeah, we actually have a great question from a LinkedIn user. I can't see their name on my end, but they said, what advice would you give to students who want to add more flavor to their writing with additional punctuation marks, but get pushback from professors or their dissertation chairs around this?
Ooh, I would say know your audience. Read the room. You have to read the room. While I think that, punctuation adds pizzazz and adds flavor, etc., I'm still coming from the perspective of a book coach and book editor. So this is nonfiction books that I'm talking about, that I'm more so skilled in helping writers. But as far as collegiate papers and dissertations and things like that, if you're getting pushback, then definitely take heed to that. You got to know your audience. That's what makes you a great writer, is when you know your reader. If your reader doesn't like it, then you have to kind of be crafty a little bit. Be crafty. See what other papers and other documents that they do enjoy, and then model your writing after that.
Yeah, that's a great approach. And I always tell students, you got to think about this. Do you want to get out of the program or do you not want to get out the program? And the difference is punctuation. Look, I'll give them what they want. You want the period instead of the semicolon? Cool. I'll give you whatever you want. It's all good. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And another thing you talked about, and I want to get into, is that aside from, you being a grammar expert, you also coach and support book writers. And so can you tell us a little bit more about that process and how do you help support people write their books?
Sure. I have to give a little bit of the history. So as I mentioned before, taught overseas in South Korea. And what happened was, while overseas, my family and friends would ask me about, my experiences. And I felt like instead of responding to people one by one, I'm going to write a book about it. So that's when my book writing journey actually began, while overseas. And then I didn't publish it until I came from South Korea. But back in 2013, when I did publish my first book, I didn't know what I was doing. I literally was like, okay, Nailah, you need a strategy to figure out how to self-publish this book.
Sure.
And I sort of wrote out this 5-point system, which is right now my framework that I use to help my clients. And I use it also to write my other books, including this book that I just released. But I was like, okay, what can you do to get these words out? I had all the words on the screen, right? but what can you do to make it to where people would actually want to read it? Well, you can set a goal. You can do this, you can do that, and you can do that. And before I knew it, I had a legible manuscript. And then I said, okay, if I can do this, knowing I had no experience as a writer, then maybe I can help someone else. And what happened was I started to just help family and friends who said, hey, I want to write a book like you. And then I would use that same framework that I use. And when it worked for them, I said, oh, there must be something to this. And then I put that framework in a book, and I'm like, okay, that's the way that I can merge my love for teaching with my purpose for writing by writing a book, which teaches writers how to write a book. It's very meta.
Yeah.
Yes, that's kind of like what I am loving to do right now.
That's great. And so tell folks about the types of authors that you like are best fit for you, what you do as a book editor and book coach. Yes.
Right now, the type of authors that are best fit for what I do and for my service, nonfiction authors who are in the process of building their brands, but they want to, put all of their expertise, package it all up, and to use it to take their brand to the next level. That's the type of author that I'm focusing on right now. For example, English teacher for years, I was. What did I do? I wrote a book about a fundamental topic in the English classroom, punctuation, grammar. Okay, so that's a way that I have catapulted my brand. And that's the way that I'm also just using that to open doors. So that's the type of client and author that I'm choosing to work with right now. The author who is like me. What can I do? How can I package my skill set? Even if you're a teacher, that's my favorite. I'm like, oh, you have so much experience.
Yeah, every teacher needs to have a book about something that they do. It's crazy.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's so much skill set that teachers have and they just don't think about using. It's wild. Yeah.
You have a book in your head, literally, teachers, professors, educators. You have it. You already have the book. You have it.
That's so true. That's so true. And for you to come back to the book, I want to just let people know, because I read the book and I just like the applicability of it, that there's actually examples of like how this looks in practice. Because there was even something around like salutations or something I was reading. It was like hello, comma, like, and I was like, I don't even know, like I just draft my email and I get it out. Yeah, so I love that.
I kind of like had multiple audiences while writing this book, or multiple audiences in mind. Of course, it was a K through 12 student who I feel like, it can help them. Sure. It started off with me writing to college students. And then I was like, okay, this can be used for also K through 12 students who want to strengthen their writing skills. And then I'm like, well, what about the business owner who's like having a hard time writing emails, especially right now where everyone is basically working from home? Then this book can also help that person, because like you mentioned, I don't think a lot of writers know that there's a comma that goes after that salutation. Hey, hello, good morning. There's a comma that goes after that before you address the individual.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm bad with that. It's bad.
That's okay. That's why I'm here, because I'm like, listen, let's all look better in writing. That's my whole spiel. That's my brand, look better in writing.
No, that's great. That's great. And so if people want to work with you, where can they find you? Like, you give them a great value to folks. Like, where can they find you and learn more about what you do?
Why, thank you. Yes, if you would like to work with me, if you're an author or an inspiring author or writer who has just great information in your head, especially if you're a teacher and educator, oh my gosh, please reach out to me. And you would like to package your expertise into a book, then you can reach me on my website at nharv, that's N as in Nailah, HARB as in Victor.com/book editing. So just go to nharv.com/services. That will be the best way, /services. There you can find out about the book editing. And I'm also going to release my book coaching program coming this fall, where I can work with aspiring authors one-on-one to really take you from ideation, your idea, to a complete draft manuscript. That's what I'm really excited about. Like, let's talk about these books, y'all.
That's great.
All on the website, nharv.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I want to say thank you for your time. Like, I think this is one aspect of writing that we often don't talk about, is like punctuation. Like, it seems so simple until you need it. And until I get a number of students that come to see me and like, I'm struggling with writing. And oftentimes not about the ideas, sometimes about the ideas, but sometimes about how it's presented. And I see what you're saying, look better in writing. That makes perfect sense.
That's it. So thank you. I appreciate that. My thing is that if I can spread this ideal with the world, one host, one video, one post, one book at a time, then that is what I'm going to do, because I really do have a passion for the English language, and I feel like it can really help us move forward. The English language took me, this girl from Compton, from LA to South Korea because they needed someone to teach it. So that can happen for me. Imagine what this linguistic capital can do for you. So that's why I'm so passionate about this language.
So that's great. And I will leave it at that. Again, I want to thank you all for tuning in to Office Hours. Just an opportunity for us to talk with great people who are doing great things around academic writing and publishing. And again, I'm Dr. Ramon Goins with the Done Dissertation. And the Done Dissertation is here to support you and ensure that we demystify the dissertation process so that as doctoral students, you can write your dissertation in 1 year or less. And if you have ideas, or even I'll open up for Instagram for a little bit longer. We'll stay on Instagram a couple more minutes to see if there are any questions there. But if you all have any questions about the process, about writing your dissertation, feel free to reach out to me at my website is www.thedonedissertation.com. I look forward to tuning in with you all on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook next week.
Bye, guys.